The San Francisco 49ers just got a clear roadmap on several key players I'm excited to tell you about in this video. It could not come at a better time because right now I'm a little down in the dumps, and it's helpful to see some of the positives. I know there are not many of them, but some of the positives that we learned this weekend, last night in the Thursday night game. You get my point. I'm excited to break it down with you in this video. We also have some other things we got to talk about, some updates, so I'll get to that as well, and some contract situations. It's kind of crazy how quickly we end up in some of these conversations. But if you're new here, I'm Nate. I make daily 49ers content. Please consider subscribing if that's what you're looking for. And if you are a 49er fan and you are already laser focused on 2025, I'm with you, all right? I'm not trying to say I'm not watching the rest of the games of the season, because I am, but I subscribe because this channel's for you. Listen, we had some special performances out of Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, for sure. And I think that it needs to be said that this defense showed yesterday that it could be great. Against a team that put up 40+ on the Buffalo Bills, this is an offense that is very difficult. And you know how this offense plays, and I'm not going to give any weather complaint, or I'm not going to give any weather excuses, because I heard from several folks who were at the game saying the weather wasn't as bad as everyone's making it out to be. It was rain. We've all played in rain. We've all been in rain. It's just rain. Anybody should be able to play in rain, and everybody had to play in the same rain, and then everybody got the dry weather as well. The fact that you go 4 quarters without a single touchdown is inexcusable regardless of the weather. So I'm not going to talk about the weather as a factor of this. So when we look at what the defense did against Stafford and the boys in blue, I'm pretty impressed. And I was really impressed, just in general, holding them to 4 field goals, holding them to 0 touchdowns. I'm impressed by that alone. That's impressive, okay? You add on top of that you're putting pressure on Stafford, even though we're not getting to him and sacking him. We were putting pressure on him where he's airmailing balls, and that was great too. And I don't think you could blame wide receivers. I could see Rams fans being like, well, wide receivers dropping the ball or deflecting the ball or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay. You want to say that. What about the guy on our side of the field that got hit in the chest with the football? What about the several guys on the 49ers side of the field who did drop the ball? Several drop balls from Juwan Jennings, from Deebo Samuel, from guys who normally catch the ball statistically, traditionally, right? You expect them to catch the ball. Catchable balls too, not even bad passes. So all I'm going to say is the defense they balled out, all right? That was the positive, for sure. If there's a positive in there, this defense absolutely did their job. Anytime you hold the other team to 12 points, you should win that game. Bar none, no excuses. You should win that game. So why do I say all of that? Well, we've got a lot of details here, of course, to break down. It's not as simple as I'm going to make it sound, but number one, we need to celebrate 2 things. Dre Greenlaw, he came to play, and he was involved in 9 tackles, which was pretty impressive in the first half, plus a little extra in the second half. That was impressive. His presence was felt. There was emotion attached to him being on the field. It felt like the team was like, we're here to play. We are here to play. And it felt like he really was the heart and soul of the defense. We've said that a lot this offseason, and it just really felt, this season, which felt like an offseason. Jeez Louise. This season, we've felt that a lot. We've said that a lot because we definitely missed Dre Greenlaw's presence. In the same way we missed a healthy Christian McCaffrey presence that we really didn't see until Buffalo, when it was too little too late, and then he went off injured. So I think this is one of those deals the 49ers prioritize no matter what it takes. I don't care who you have to cut. I don't care what you have to do. Dre Greenlaw's a guy you have to keep around. And we saw fractured foot Fred Warner over there. We saw what happened to his performance when Dre Greenlaw was on the field. Fred Warner looked like the Fred Warner of old, looked like the Fred Warner of the early part of the season before he got injured, before he started trying to cover for other players on his team, before he started trying to cover for the inadequacies of Devondre Campbell and company. This is what the 49ers needed. He is the Navarro Bowman. We need that guy in there, okay? If you have 2 solid linebackers, it changes everything, especially when you are a team that likes to play in the nickel. I'm gonna slow down here because I can feel myself starting to get all fiery, and I want to stay on point and stay on focus and keep my point of view here. So what do I think this means? One, it's best for Dre. It's best for this defense. It's best for Nick Sorensen that you sign Dre Greenlaw and you keep him on this football team. It's best for Fred Warner. That's the other one. It's best for Fred Warner. You keep him on this football team. I think they had a fantastic performance. In fact, I've got some stats to back that up there. The two top grades on the 49ers last night went to Fred Warner, 92.1, and Dre Greenlaw, 87.6. We had Warner with 15 total tackles and Greenlaw with 9 in just over a half. Neither player missed a tackle. And that is something we have to identify. That has been an issue for the last month and a half. The 49ers missing tackles. This defense looks different without Dre. Sign him. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. If we look at the key defensive contracts that are expiring this season, there are 30 contracts that are expiring at the end of this season, by the way. That's a lot of contracts, folks. But there are 30 contracts expiring. Of the key defensive ones I've got here, Charvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Devondre Campbell, technically, Ambry Thomas, Talanoa Hufanga, Kevin Givens, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, and Isaac Yiadom are kind of the ones that are on the top of the list. There's more further down, and there's some key offensive players too. I'm not trying to act like they're not important, but while we're talking about the defense, I told you keep Dre. I'm going to tell you the same thing, keep Hufanga. I see a difference when he's on the field. And I'll be honest with you guys. When I look at what Hufanga has done and how it has helped Jair Brown, how it has helped, I think Jair Brown played better, and I think this week compared to previously, I think that helped. I also want to throw something random out there. Jair Brown gets benched basically when Hufanga comes back. And what does Jair Brown do? Does he leave in the third quarter when Hufanga needs to sit? Does he walk out of the stadium? No, he does not. Jair Brown sticks around, and look how important it becomes the very next week when Malik Mustafa is injured and can't play. Jair Brown is then your guy. Tashawn Gibson, by the way, when he did come in there, did look good to me. He did pass the eye test at least. I haven't watched the whole game back yet. I'm not ready for that, guys. I'm not ready. But I'll get there. We will. I think when I look at these players, Devondre Campbell, obviously, he's gone. If he's not already behind closed doors, already fired, he's going to be fired. That's going to happen. So Dre Greenlaw, bring him back. Hufanga, bring him back. Do whatever it takes. Charvarius Ward, I'm not sure. I love Ward, and no one's going to hold anything against Mooney for how this season has gone for him with what he's had to go through. Nobody's going to hold him to that. But I felt like the beginning of the season, he could have been better, wasn't great, and I feel like second half, back end of the season, since coming back, he's been decent. But again, I'm not gonna try and make any judgments on where he's at, how he's doing, what they're seeing in practice that we don't see, all of that good stuff. So I'm just gonna leave him there, and we're gonna see what the defense or what the team thinks about a re-signed contract for this guy. I'm not really sure where it's gonna look like. I think he's probably likely the guy to go. But let's move on, because we do have to talk about a couple other guys out there, namely George Kittle. In the top 5 highest graded 49ers in Week 15 versus the Los Angeles Rams, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, already told you, are on the top. Then you get to George Kittle, who I thought had a pretty great game. I think if you either one or the other, I heard some arguments like, hey, Brock Purdy didn't really lead Kittle on that one. That was a PI. Had he led Kittle, then it either would have been a guaranteed PI because his back never would have been turned, because George wouldn't have turned around so much, or it would have been he would have caught it, and the defender would have had nothing they could have done about it because he'd already beat him. He was beat on the play. I get that argument. That's fair. I think that his stats don't show the true value of what he brought on the field yesterday. I thought he was a pretty fantastic football player, and I think that he has been weird. Oh, dude, we did this in 2022. I think 2020 as well. I think 2020 was one of his best seasons, and you're seeing, why are we wasting George Kittle's best seasons with our bad seasons? That's killing me. And maybe there's something there that George just shows how Hall of Fame George Kittle really is. I mean, he really is that valuable. He's really an MVP type of player that when your season is the worst possible season it's been in years, George Kittle is out there balling. consistently. Nick Bosa, I'll give him some credit there. I told you I felt like he played better than what his stats showed, and apparently PFF agrees with me on that one. Deommodore Lenoir, another big shout out there. He was absolutely incredible in man coverage. It's genuinely like when I play against my brother-in-law, like we do like little routes, and he's the cornerback, he's the defensive back, and I'm the guy out there running the routes. He's sticky. I can't ever shake him. And there's something about a player, like I don't have that ability. I could never in a million years be a defensive back. There's something about the anticipation, the twitchiness, all of that, I just don't have. And there's something about Deommodore Lenoir, my goodness. Glad we signed him to a big contract. Glad he's sticking around for the long haul because he is an absolutely incredible player. And I really believe this. I think in 3 or 4 years, we're going to look at his contract and we're going to say that was really, really good business by the 49ers. We got him on a discount. I really do believe that's going to be the case. One more thing we got to talk about is the update on Devondre Campbell. He's coming off of his best week in the NFL as a 49er. And he goes and does this. How disappointing, right? Now, I'm not going to get into the nuance of this conversation. Let me know in the comments if you want to talk about the nuance, then that's another thing. But I've been listening to stuff all day, so I think it's over talked about already. But I will say this on Devondre Campbell. We saw what happened when Jair Brown did not give up despite being replaced. With a rookie in front of him now. We saw what happened with, golly, dude, the amount of stuff that guys have had to go through this season, the amount of heartache guys have had to go through this season. You've got all of these guys that are just not giving up and continuing to play for the team. And I love how many players like George Kittle going out there and saying, we are a team and you're not acting like a teammate. That's the problem. You're not acting like you're a brother. And that, I think, is more important than anything. Devondre Campbell obviously showed his true colors, and I'm real bummed because I really believed at the beginning of the season he was going to go back to that all-pro level, that before those two bad years at Green Bay. I really believed he was going to get there. And unfortunately, not only did he not do that, just when he was finally starting to find his feet, he goes and does something like this. And no, per the quote, he did not totally redeem himself. If you know, you know. 49ers have not had any contact with Devondre Campbell. This is as of a little bit ago. I think maybe like 12 o'clock or so. Shanahan said that the 49ers are working through semantics of what to do with Campbell. Not something you can do and still be a part of our team. I heard a great take earlier today on the radio, 95.7 The Game. Bonte was talking about how it might be worth trying to keep him around. If you can afford to keep him around and suspend him for a few games, absolutely worth it, because then he can't go and make more money and play for a team that's going into the playoffs. I respect that take massively. I don't know how realistic that is. I have no idea, but when you hear Shanahan is last night not sure what he's going to do, and now talking about the semantics, working through the semantics, that tells me they are not going with a simple cut. I don't think it's going to be like that. So I'm going to wait to see on this, because I'm really hoping that, one, it's a real message to the locker room. That's the first thing I hope I see. The second thing I'm really hoping is that it's a situation where it does have a long-term effect, because I think there's a lot of hurt players. I think that for the sake of the locker room, for the sake of the culture, this needs to be handled appropriately and correctly and thought through really well. And it would be great if, after doing this, Devondre Campbell does not get the benefit of just jumping on another team. Like we saw Randy Gregory do that on multiple teams. I think the 49ers were kind of one of those teams technically, but we saw Randy Gregory popping around on other teams' dimes. I think he was cut by the Denver Broncos, and I forget who picked him up right after that. But he was basically playing, and the Denver Broncos had guaranteed money invested in him, like a lot of guaranteed money invested in him that they just had to lose. So that cap hit was unfortunate for the Denver Broncos. That's not what you want to see with the 49ers. See him playing in the playoffs on somebody else's team on our dime. I don't want to see that. That would be disappointing. That's about the end of the nuance I'm going to go into on that one. Real disappointment, of course, and I'm interested in what you have to say in the comments. I look forward to seeing your comments as always. I love reading your guys' comments. We have 9 days until the Miami Dolphins, which means this weekend we will not be feeling stressed on Sunday. Unfortunately, that's also a bad thing, because we're not going to be feeling stressed on Sunday means that we're not going to be playing meaningful football or watching games that are truly meaningful games to us. You can watch the Seahawks game and hope that they lose, and I'm with you there. I always want to see the Seahawks lose, but I think the bottom line is it's not going to really matter at this point. So you're just watching football now. You're just kicking your feet up and you're just watching football. Maybe you have an eye on some of these other guys who are about to be free agents, and you're hoping that the 49ers can figure out a way to bring in some guys and improve this roster. I think as far as I'm concerned, guys, I'm really glad that you subscribed to this channel. I'm really glad you're watching this video. I'm really glad that you joined in the comments. I very much appreciate it. I know it's not the end of the season, but it sort of feels like we're capping the end of the season, and I'm already heading into 2025 and excited to go with you along the journey into this, what's going to be a very, very, very long offseason. And NFL draft and OTAs and all that stuff. I can't believe we're already thinking that way, but I'm excited to go through all of it, making daily 49ers content. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Have a fantastic weekend.